What's up, sports fans? Welcome back to Player to Be Named Later. I'm G-Man. It's been a while since we recorded an episode, but glad to be here with all of you. Hope everyone's doing well during these times. Let's get right into it. I'm going to start off with some Toronto Maple Leafs because they're the easiest to talk about right now. Everything looks to be good, typical Leaf fan, everything's looking good right now because they're playing well. But I try to be that kind of centered Leafs fan that even when things aren't going that well, I try and be optimistic. The last time I spoke about them, I had a few criticisms, not so much too bad, but just talking about Austin Matthews a little bit. But I have to really give it to Austin Matthews. There was a time there right after Four Nations, his legs just must have been done for, completely done for. His strength, his mental kind of fortitude towards the game, because he's gone through injuries this year. He went through a tough stretch just in terms of hockey, nothing else. I'm just going through the Four Nations where he was relied upon, and a lot of people talking about him, and being the captain of probably the most popular team, definitely one of the most popular teams in Canada. That could be argued with a lot of fan bases, but also the league. You see the kind of support that the Leafs get. I'm sure that took a toll on Austin. So shout out to Austin. I think, the Leafs as a whole, their game is really starting to come together here. And that's what you want. You want, obviously, a team that's peaking going into the playoffs. I think most fans, anyone who watches sports, they'll usually say the same thing. Things are looking up for the Maple Leafs right now. They had a really good stretch, obviously, like I said, beating some really good teams, Florida, Columbus. They beat the Kings in LA. Obviously had a setback against San Jose, but I still want to talk, obviously, about Florida. When you talk about a team like Florida, that's championship. They've gone to 2 Stanley Cups in a row. It doesn't matter who's playing or who isn't playing. Whether they had Kachuk, Ekblad, and Barkov for that game, once you have your system and you have NHL-ready players to fill in and fill those spots while guys are injured, it doesn't matter who you put out there, and it really shows. And so what I want to say about the Leafs, if they have to play a team like Florida in the playoffs, we'll get to that in a minute, the way the standings are looking right now. We'll get to those matchups, but I want to talk about time and space, the way the Leafs play. You can kind of see the way Florida plays. It matches up perfectly the way the teams, kind of played separate games. Whereas you look at Florida, they've had trouble with teams like Montreal and Ottawa, who are fast and have a lot of pushback because they're just young and maybe they haven't figured out exactly how they want to play. But the Leafs, because they're 9 years in and have a system, and with their top 4 where they like to stretch it out and show their skill and kind of make teams come to them, you're just inviting a team like Florida, a team like Tampa Bay, teams like Ottawa and Montreal, who have played the Leafs really well this year, to have success against you. Because if they're fast and they have pushback and they want to limit your space, you're playing right into their hands. I think the Leafs going into the playoffs have to figure out a way to minimize those kind of areas where, or even just start to battle for those areas. That's what it really is. It's not minimizing the areas, it's battling for that ice. And I really like the way Bobby McMahon, Matthew Nyes, even Max Domi played against Florida, because they really battled for that empty space. What you'll notice is, to get those chances that you really need in the playoffs, you need to fight for net front. You need to fight, obviously, in the corners, on the forecheck, around the net. They really need to get to those areas and fight. And I like the way they look. I think you're seeing that more. You really saw it from Mitch in this last stretch. I think Austin is showing now that he has his legs back. I know he likes to rely on his stick checking, which he's a master at. Willie's been really showing it now. He's on a mad heater. He looks really good going into the playoffs. The one thing, obviously, Leafs fans are going to have in the back of their head right now is injuries, but they're fighting for this number one spot in the Atlantic Division. So I think that's a huge thing, because if they get that number one spot, we're looking at a Battle of Ontario, which would be great. I think if you're been a Leafs fan as long as I have, and you think back to those great series of the early 2000s with Matt Sundin, Gary Roberts, Darcy Tucker going up against the Sens when they had Alfie, Chris Neal, and Wade Redden, guys like that. Like, those series were epic, and obviously a lot of those series went the Leafs' way. I don't think Ottawa beat the Leafs at all, but it would just be good. And to actually, the Leafs will tell you they'll play whoever they need to play in the first round and the second round. Obviously, athletes, coaches, they're not going to give in to that, and they're just going to tell you, hey, whoever we play in the first round, it's like, you're going to have to get through tough teams no matter what in the playoffs. But it would be nice to actually be in the same province for the entire series, just in terms of travel. We know what's going on with America right now. I know they're not probably looking to bother professional teams, but you just never know what happens these days with travel. I think the Leafs are in a great spot going into this last stretch of games. They have one more against Florida, one more against Tampa, but it's tough. They have those two. They have Carolina, who's obviously battling for position and have looked good since they traded Rantanen. Buffalo's all of a sudden playing really good hockey, even though they're out of it. Detroit is Detroit. I think they have one more game. No, that's it. So they got Florida, Tampa, they got Montreal, who's obviously playing really well. And then Carolina, Buffalo, and Detroit to end the season. So I like how the game's looking. I like how Stolarz is looking. I had questions about that. Would it be Stolarz? Would it be Joe Wall? Here's the thing about the goaltending. Craig Berube is not going to say, okay, I like one goalie or the other goalie. I think it's obvious he probably wants to stick with Stolarz going into the playoffs, which I'm not here to argue about. The thing that I like most is that they have a healthy tandem, bottom line. They might not go back and forth between goalies and really do it that way in the playoffs. They might obviously just stick with one guy, but if a guy gets hurt, if he struggles, at least the backup is there and has proven himself this season. Joseph Wall's looked great. Obviously, so is Stolarz. So I think from a goaltending perspective, they look great. Defensively, I would say they also look great. This has been probably their best top six in a long time. I can't remember actually when they had a top six like this. And I think for me, a lot of people give Jake McCabe a lot of credit. He's looked good, don't get me wrong. Him and Tanev definitely are the shutdown pair, but I also feel like there's room for improvement in his game and Morgan Riley's game. Simone Benoit is someone who gets a lot of flack for some reason, but the guy's on the plus side. He plays really physical hockey. Does he make a couple of mistakes here and there? Sure, but other than Tanev, really all of them do. I think Tanev's mistakes are very minimal. Usually if he's had a bad play, like, unfortunately it's his partner who's put him in that position. But like I said, I'm not here to complain about Jake McCabe's play. He's looked great. He's hurt right now. I think he'll be fine for the playoffs. I think they all will. And then when it comes to the forwards, this last stretch, I think Craig Berube is really locking down his playoff lineup. Last night, he has some decisions to make there. Nick Robertson had a great game last night. 2 goals, was all over the ice. When he's in there, he scores. So the one thing the Leafs have had struggles with in past playoffs, it hasn't been defense. It hasn't necessarily been goaltending. Sure, in past years, Samsonov, Freddie Anderson, other goalies have given up goals at the worst time and bad goals. But what they've needed most is secondary goal scoring. And because the teams like to key on Austin and Mitch and Willie, they need goal scorers. But That's why the emergence of Bobby McMahon and even Nick Robertson, when he actually gets playing time, is going to matter. Max Domi's looking good going to the playoffs. Like I said, he's scoring a little bit more. John Tavares has looked great. Matthew Nice obviously heading towards a 30-goal season. Who knows if he gets there, but he's had a great season so far. And I liked his pushback last night too when guys got in his face. And that's what you really look for. So this Leafs team going into this last stretch, if they can lock down first place, I'm not saying Ottawa's an easy first round matchup at all. They won't be, especially the way they've played the Leafs this season. They'll be very motivated taking on the Leafs because they look at it as, you know, their provincial rival, and obviously the Leafs just get more attention in the media with fans, and they'll be playing with a chip on their shoulder, and I don't blame them. Honestly, if you're an Ottawa player, if you're an Ottawa fan, that's how you should look at it against the Leafs. So, yeah, things are shaping up well here going into the playoffs. Hopefully they go in 100% healthy. They can shore up the lineup. They know what their four lines are going to look like. I pretty much think we know what the top six defense is going to look like. I think they're going to roll with Stolar. So let's see what happens. But if they can, you know, kind of play that game that they played against Florida the other night, that they played last night against Columbus. Columbus loves to score, puts up big numbers, and the Leafs, you know, shut them out 5-0. They took it to them. Really looked great again. Then, you know, got to 30 goals. And yeah, I think once April 19th comes along and we know what the matchups are, see how they play these last 5 games, things are looking good. Just before I let you go with the hockey talk, I just want to say a pre-congratulations to Alexander Ovechkin. I'm sure he's going to break the goal scoring record from Wayne Gretzky. It's just really interesting, the symmetry. They have the same number of goals in the same number of games right now, games played. So let's see if Ovechkin can break it in the next game. But congratulations to Alex Ovechkin, who's really played the game the right way. His entire career has really done it his own way from every way you look at it. No one ever thought the record would be broken. We're seeing it this season. Austin Matthews is really in line to probably have a great chance of breaking the record. As a Leaf fan, that definitely excites all of us. So we look forward to that. So thanks for joining in. I tried to keep it as short as possible. There's so much we could talk about the Leafs, but yeah, 5 games left, and we'll see you right before the playoffs. We'll touch base again and have more to say. So thanks for watching this video. Thank you for your continued messages and support. I hope you guys continue to watch on TikTok, on YouTube. Like I say, I'm just going to grow organically. I want real engagement. And so I hope you guys follow, spread the word, send out my videos if you want. You know, I'm here to just talk sports. There might be a little bit of politics involved coming up with my next video on basketball, because you'll just have to watch and find out. So thanks again for watching, and peace and love to everybody, and see you on the next video.